Welcome to the Edge2Web Getting Started video series. In this video, we're going to show how you can use Edge2Web Power Tools to manage your SiteWise assets and models. To open the asset management application, open the Tools menu and select Asset Manager. On the left-hand side of the screen, we see an asset hierarchy displaying all of my SiteWise assets. There are two plants in the hierarchy, and I'm going to navigate to the plant in London and view a piece of equipment on one of the assembly lines in the plant. Once selected, I see a display of information associated with the asset. In the middle section, I see asset properties, and on the right-hand side, I see alarms, a map of the location, and any asset files associated with the asset that's selected. Since this asset has a low availability active alarm, it's showing in red in the upper right-hand corner. In the middle section, I see all of the properties associated with the asset. Asset properties have four types in SiteWise. Attributes for storing static data such as location, measurements for time series data such as counters and machine states, which are typically readings from a machine's PLC, transforms, which are calculations based on properties such as converting Fahrenheit temperatures to centigrade, and metrics, which are time-based aggregations of properties such as the amount of energy used by a machine in the last hour or the total number of parts produced by lines in a plant. You can view the properties as a flat list as it's displayed here, or you can group them by type and look at the attributes grouped as a unit, as well as the measurements, metrics, and transforms associated with your asset. This particular asset doesn't have any contact information associated with it. And contact information could hold the name, email, phone number of somebody who's primarily responsible for this piece of equipment. So let's add contact information to the asset. Assets in SiteWise are associated with models, and models allow you to group properties together so that the properties can be reused across different assets in your system. I'm going to click the equipment link and open up the model associated with this asset. The Asset Model Viewer page that I navigated to now shows me information about the associated equipment model. Here I can view information about the asset model and edit that information, or create new models, or delete existing models. Let's update this model with property information for the contact. So I could do that by adding properties such as contact email. And I could do this one at a time for all of the different properties that I want to add. But what if we wanted to share the concept of a contact across multiple models in the system? We can do that in SiteWise using component models. Let's take a look at how we can create a component model to share the notion of a contact. To create the reusable set of properties, I'm going to click Create Model. I'm going to give it a model name, Contact. And I'm going to enter a description for the model. And I'm going to pick a different type than asset model. I'm going to pick component model, which allows us to create properties that can be reused in different assets. Now I'm ready to add my set of properties to the model. I can add them one at a time through Add Property, or I can add groups of properties together using Add Property Set. The Add Property Set uses a CSV file that contains information about the sets, their property names, the data types that are that the property is associated with, and other information about the properties. I'm going to select a CSV file that I had already downloaded from our Getting Started guide. And it has a list of property sets in it, and one of them is contact that contains information similar to the information that I had already wanted to put into this model. So I'm going to select that model and add it. And now those list of properties all show up in this component model. I'm going to hit Save. And once the asset model is saved, I can reuse this component model inside of asset models. So let me flip back to the equipment model and add this component model to it. So I click Add Component, I pick the existing contact model, and I hit Create, and this goes ahead and adds it to my existing asset model. Now that I've got my set of properties in my asset model, I can go ahead and start to use these properties inside of the bottom presser model, that asset that I was going to edit in the Asset Manager. So I'm going to switch back to the Asset Manager tool. I'm going to navigate once again over to the bottom presser piece of equipment. And now I can see that there's actually contact information interspersed with some of my other properties. I can group these properties by components. And now, in addition to the ungrouped component properties, I have the contact property. And I can go ahead and add something like jsmith@edge2web.com for an email and put in some other information associated with the contact. The information that I enter is automatically saved with the asset and usable by your application. Let's regroup by type and take a look at some of the measurements that are coming in for this asset. So I'm going to click on one of my measurements here for good counter. I can see the current value of the good counter is 29 units that came in at just a few minutes ago. And then there's this little graph icon that I can click on where I can basically take a look at other data associated with it, other time areas associated with this counter. So I can look at the last 10 minutes, I can look at the last 6 hours of data coming in. Additionally, I can go over to a more extensive data explorer, which we'll cover in a new topic. So that completes our getting started video for asset management and asset modeling in Edge2Web Power Tools.